A normal medieval day did not begin with alarm clocks or schedules pinned to walls. It began with light, or the absence of it. Long before sunrise, the medieval world stirred in darkness, guided not by hours and minutes, but by bells, seasons, and survival. For most people living between the 9th and 15th centuries, daily life was not dramatic or heroic. It was repetitive, physically demanding, and deeply shaped by necessity. Yet within this routine existed rhythms, beliefs, fears, and small comforts that defined medieval existence far more than wars or kings ever did. At dawn, the first sounds were not voices but animals. Roosters crowed, cattle shifted in byres, and dogs barked as people rose from straw-filled mattresses. Beds were simple. Wooden frames if one was fortunate, piles of straw or hay if not. Entire families often slept in the same room, sometimes the same bed, sharing warmth during cold months. Privacy was almost non-existent. Clothing was worn to bed because it might be the only clothing one owned. Rising early was not a choice. Daylight was precious, and wasting it meant hunger. Breakfast, if it existed at all, was modest. Contrary to modern expectations, many medieval people did not eat 3 meals a day. A morning meal might consist of bread dipped in ale, thin porridge, or leftover stew. Ale was safer than water, and consumed daily by adults and children alike. It was weak by modern standards, brewed constantly, and essential for hydration. Food was fuel, not pleasure, and every bite mattered. Work began immediately after eating, or sometimes before. For peasants, who made up the vast majority of the population, the day revolved around agricultural labour. Fields had to be ploughed, weeds pulled, animals tended, fences repaired. Farming was back-breaking, seasonal, and relentless. There were no days off during planting or harvest. Even children worked, scaring birds from crops, gathering firewood, or helping with animals. Survival depended on everyone contributing. In towns and cities, daily life followed a different rhythm, but was no less demanding. Artisans opened workshops at dawn. Blacksmiths fired their forges, bakers kneaded dough, weavers worked looms, and cobblers shaped leather by hand. Apprentices, often boys as young as 7, performed the dirtiest tasks, learning skills through years of labour. Guild rules governed nearly every aspect of work, from how long one could labour to the quality of finished goods. A normal day meant repetition, discipline, and oversight. Time itself was experienced differently. There were no wristwatches, and few could read clocks even when they existed. Church bells structured the day, marking prayer hours. Prime, terce, sext, none, vespers. Even those who were not deeply religious lived by these sounds. Bells signalled when to work, when to rest, when danger approached, and when someone had died. Religion was not a separate part of life. It was woven into every hour. By mid-morning, hunger returned. The main meal of the day was often eaten around noon. For peasants, this meant coarse bread, onions, cabbage, beans, or pottage, a thick stew simmered all day with whatever ingredients were available. Meat was rare for the poor, reserved for feast days or special occasions. Nobles, by contrast, ate far better. Multiple courses, roasted meats, spiced sauces, and imported foods. Yet even among the elite, meals followed ritual and hierarchy, reinforcing social order. Hygiene was practical rather than luxurious. Despite popular myths, medieval people were not universally filthy. Bathing occurred when possible, especially in towns with bathhouses, but it was not frequent by modern standards. Water had to be carried, heated, and reused. Soap existed, but was harsh. Clothes were washed infrequently because laundering was labour-intensive and wore fabric down quickly. Smells, smoke, sweat, animals were a normal part of daily life, barely noticed by those living in them. After eating, work resumed. The afternoon hours were often the hardest. Muscles ached, tools broke, and weather could turn brutal without warning. Rain soaked clothing and chilled bodies. Summer heat caused exhaustion and dehydration. Medical care was primitive. Injuries were common, and even small wounds could become fatal. Life expectancy was low, not because everyone died young, but because daily risks were constant. Children's lives mirrored adult responsibilities far earlier than today. Childhood was short. Play existed, dice, wooden toys, games, but work came first. Education was limited. Most people were illiterate, and knowledge was passed orally through stories, sermons, and observation. Parents taught children survival skills, not dreams of advancement. As daylight faded, the pace slowed. Candles and oil lamps were expensive, so activities after sunset were limited. Darkness was feared. Roads were dangerous, and many towns enforced curfews. Gates closed. Night watchmen patrolled streets, calling out the hours. For many, evening meant a final simple meal, prayer, and sleep. But medieval sleep was not like modern sleep. People often slept in two shifts, a first sleep and a second sleep. Between them, they might pray, talk, tend fires, or even visit neighbours. This quiet, reflective period was considered normal. Dreams were taken seriously, often believed to carry messages or warnings. Religion hovered over every moment of the day. Fear of hell, sin, and divine judgment shaped behaviour. People prayed not just for salvation, but for survival. Good weather, healthy crops, protection from disease. Superstitions mixed freely with Christian belief. Charms were worn. Folk remedies were trusted. The unseen world felt close and dangerous. For nobles, daily life appeared more comfortable, but carried its own pressures. Lords managed estates, settled disputes, trained for war, and navigated political alliances. Ladies oversaw households, arranged marriages, and maintained social ties. Even leisure, hunting, feasting, music, was structured by rank and obligation. As night deepened, families gathered close for warmth. Fires burned low. Outside, wolves howled, and the world beyond the village felt vast and threatening. Inside, people slept, knowing that tomorrow would be nearly identical to today. Another cycle of labour, prayer, hunger, and hope. A normal medieval day was not glamorous, but it was deeply human. It was shaped by rhythm rather than choice, belief rather than comfort, and survival rather than ambition. In its simplicity and hardship, it forged communities bound by shared struggle and faith. While centuries separate us from that world, the echoes of those days, work, worry, ritual, and resilience, still resonate in the foundations of modern life.